So Tata Power just yesterday released its quarter four results, and we have with us today the CEO and Managing Director of Tata Power, Mr. Praveer Sinha. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Shweta. Such a pleasure to be on your show.
So I'll straight away shoot off with the results. Congratulations for the good set of numbers. Could you just tell us which sector out of distribution, generation, transmission drew the maximum growth and why?
Uh, Thank you. I think what you need to look at is that this is the 14th consecutive quarter in which we have shown growth in our PAT. And what is important is that each of our businesses have stabilized and are giving very consistent performance. So whether it is our existing generation, the coal, hydro, and the gas, or the transmission and distribution, and our renewable business, all of them have done very well to the plan. And consistency in performance and stabilization of performance is the hallmark of this result, as has been in the last many quarters. And going forward, you will continue to see the same type of performance. Of course, what also happens is that there are some quarters in which one does little better than the other, but I think on an overall basis, there is huge amount of consistency in each of our operations.
Right. So yesterday you gave us the number that Tata Power plans to have a capex of 12,000 crore in this financial year. Yeah, last year in July when we had spoken, you had said projected the capex for FY23 at 14,000, but the actual capex was about 6,000 crore. Could you just explain the reasons behind this shortfall?
So you're right that last year we had planned a large capex, but ended up with something like 6,500. This is because a lot of our renewable projects, which we were planning to implement last year, got deferred to this year, and maybe some will get also deferred to the next year, that is FY25. This is because there was a lot of supply chain constraints from sourcing from other countries, as also the cost of the solar modules had gone up, and we thought that it would be better if we defer these rather than implement at very high cost. That has paid dividends in the sense that we see in last 6 months the cost of modules coming down, and we do expect that once we implement these projects in next 12 to 18 months, we'll get much higher returns than what we had planned. So that's the reason that the capex got deferred. And this year we are trying to make up for that by spending nearly 12,500 crores, which mostly will come from our internal accruals.
Right, sir. But could you just tell which sector is it still going to be renewables where the maximum of the capex is going to go, or could you just explain which sector is it going to go for maximum?
So in renewable, we have a new manufacturing facility that we are creating for cell and module that will take about 3,000 crores, and another 4,500 will go into our utility scale projects, as well as some of the group captive projects that we will set up. As regards our distribution is concerned, they will have about 3,000 to 3,500 crores of capex, which includes the transmission and distribution in Mumbai and also in Delhi, and also in Odisha, where we have running all the four distribution companies. So I think it's a very, very calibrated growth that we are doing. And the whole purpose is that whatever implementation, whatever capex we do starts yielding results to us, and we get much better margins going forward.
So I would like to talk about debt. I mean, the debt is still relatively on the higher side. So, what is being? Are you looking at refinancing, or what are the measures you're taking to lower your debt?
So I think our debt is very low, considering we are an infrastructure company. We have been able to bring down last year from 39,000 to 35,000. And on a debt equity ratio, if you see, we are one, which is normally not seen by any infrastructure company. They typically are into 2:1 ratio. and we have been able to manage the debt very well. Also, going forward, we expect to continue to have a debt equity in the same similar range. So, I think we are doing very good on debt considering the amount of capex that we incur every year for growth, and infrastructure projects require huge amount of capex. So, we are able to now generate enough cash to service the debt also, as well as to take care of the growth aspects.
Right. So I would like to talk about the Mundra plant. You also said, and we saw data as well, that the plant was not operational throughout Q4. What was the amount of loss that is being incurred because of the plant? And also, what you yesterday in the conference call, you talked about coming to a long-term solution, probably through supplementary PPAs. But could you give us some details about what is this long-term solution going to be like, and also the loss portion coming from the Mundra plant?
So the Mundra plant had operated last year from 5th May to 31st December under Section 11, wherein the cost that is incurred for operating the plant is reimbursed. Uh, from January onwards, we were trying to come to some settlement with the procurers. That could not happen. So during the period January to 10th of or 13th of February, we did operate one or two units of Mundra. But since we could not come to a settlement, we had to close down. We have now again Section 11 from 15th March to 15th of June, and the Mundra plant is operating now. We have four units which are operating at full capacity. We are supplying to the four procurers. Of course, Haryana is not taking, and the full quantity of power that is being generated is supplied to all the procurers. So, what is important to see is that today our operation of the plant is on a cost reflective basis, or on a cost plus basis, and that ensures that we do not incur any losses when we are operating. On a long term arrangement, there has to be a benefit to everyone, a benefit to the consumer, benefit to the discoms who will modify the PPA, and a benefit also to us in terms of the otherwise losses we would have incurred if we would have operated as per the PPA. Settlement is under discussion, and hopefully we should be able to come to an arrangement which is acceptable to all sides.
So, barring this Section 11, which is currently in place and will be there, as you said, till June, many other states, like which technically are in the same area, say for Gujarat, they are buying much more expensive power. So, what is going on that, the power is not being taken from this plant, but rather from others?
So that's where I mentioned to you that the whole objective of this settlement is benefit to everyone. In merit order, Mundra plant is much lower than many other suppliers of power, as also from the exchange. And it makes sense to come to an arrangement which will ensure that lower cost power is available to the consumers. It is also good for the discom because they will unnecessarily not have to pay higher cost of procuring power. And it is good for us also because if we operate the plant with a much lower under recovery, we'll be in a much better position to operate it. Otherwise, many a times we find that it becomes very, very uneconomical, and the under recovery is so large that it does not make sense to continue its operation. So I think it's in benefit of all stakeholders, and I'm sure we'll be able to come to a settlement which will ensure that the plant operates till the life of the plant.
Right, sir. So, congratulations on getting the PLI. I mean, being allotted for the solar manufacturing thing. But could you give us a sense of to start with, because these are process systems and they take time to kind of reach to the actual capacity of production. To start with, how much is the capacity per day of modules and cells that you are estimating? I believe it's going to start from December or October. If you could give clarity on that as well. And also, what
Yeah.
are the challenges being faced?
So the plant has two components. One is a 4 gigawatt of module, and there's another component of 4 gigawatt of cells. The module plant is in advanced stage of construction, and hopefully by September, October, we should start the first phase of the module. And over a period of time, the full 4 gigawatt capacity will come. Similarly, the cell plant will start operating from December onwards, and hopefully the full capacity will come by end of March next year. So this plant will help us to meet our local requirement of projects that we implement, whether it is the rooftop or group captive or utility scale or third party EPC. And it will help us to control the cost, as also the security of supply that is necessary for such projects.
So, could you give a sense of, in terms of the machinery, where have you got these from, and also the raw materials? Are you finding, is that a challenge? The scale of acquiring or getting these raw materials. Are you facing problems in that front as well?
Uh, let's see, the machinery, many of them are from Europe. Some are also Chinese machines, but these are very standard machines and are used globally in different countries. Similarly, the raw material sourcing is done from various places. From ASEAN countries, we have a lot of people who manufacture cells and wafers, and we will procuring from there, as also from China. So I think it's a mix and a combination from various places where we can have a long-term arrangement to ensure that consistency and quality of supply is is ensured.
Sir, overall in the solar manufacturing sector in India, with this PLI push, still, if we talk about polysilicon wafers, that's a different, fully integrated model. But how long do you see this gap remaining, where to some extent some imports will continue?
I think so. It is very difficult that all the projects which are envisaged will come up immediately or will come up at one given time. Uh, each project has its own gestation period and own timelines under which it will get implemented. And over a period of next 3 to 4 years, many of these projects will get implemented in a staggered basis. Till such time we do not have full capacity or the total requirement that is there in the country, we will have to keep on importing them from various places. And I think that's a very standard model in any manufacturing system when you are scaling it up.
Right. So last time when when you gave us an interview, you had talked about the summer power demand, and you said that it's not just 230 as gigawatt as the government had projected. It might go up beyond, like, say, up to 240 gigawatts. Given the current scenario where the weather has been kind, I don't know, blame it on climate change. But what is your take on the coming months? And we also have predictions for El Nino. So how is it going to be, like, the power situation in India?
So I think there are a lot of meteorological companies which have come up with their own assessment of what sort of heat wave conditions will be there in the country, including El Nino, and whether it is IMD or Skymet or some of the other weather companies. But these are things which are changing very frequently and very fast. We did not expect rains in the month of March and April. Similarly, we did not expect such high heat conditions in the month of February. So let's wait and watch. But what is important is that the country is geared up to meet, whether it is 230 or 240 gigawatt of energy. I think we will be in a much better condition to meet the requirement. Also, from June onwards, once the rains start, then the ramp up of generation from hydropower plants will start. As also, the wind speed during the month of June to September are very high. So, ramp up in generation from wind projects will also take place. So, I think if we consider the whole uh, generation capability in the country and the capacity which is existing, we should be in a position to meet the requirement of whatever is there in the summer and monsoon months.
Right. You must be aware there have been reports about the government considering to further change the national electricity policy to kind of not just phase down, but to stop any further coal power plants. Apart from those that are already under the pipeline. What is your view of this?
So I think government is taking a very conscious decision that how the transition takes place. So because it is important that when we move towards renewable, the intermittent power has to be made from, and whether it is through pump storage, or it is through battery storage, or through hydrogen, till such time they become more cost effective and in a scaled up way, there is necessity to continue with some of the existing coal-based assets. But there is a transition roadmap, and I think government is considering all these aspects and the timeline to implement many of these new technology projects, and they will take a very conscious decision so that the transition um, uh, is smooth and seamless, and we do not have any challenge in availability of power in future.
Sir, I would again take you back to the topic of power demand that we were discussing. If you look at the latest data, say for March, April, even though the demand was not so high, still the contribution of renewable energy has been around just not much, around 11 to 10%. Are there concerns because many discoms are now looking for round the clock power? So, what is your view on this? And do we see it increasing this year and from this year onwards, or when do we see the share of renewable energy in our energy mix going further?
So I think the government itself has taken a decision to extend many of these projects to be completed by 31st March 24 and 30th September 24, because they understand that the supply chain which got disrupted and the price increases, it's important that they come down, and then only these projects gets implemented. So I think I can expect in next 12 to 24 months, you will see large number of projects coming up. Also, during that period, many of the manufacturing capacities will come up in the country. So what you would see is that the capacity additions, especially in renewable, to a large extent, will get added in next 12 to 24 months, and whatever is the future growth or future new requirement of power can to a large extent be met from the renewable sources.
Sir, I would just come to our last question. I won't take much of your time here. In your con call, also, you specifically talked about, EV charging points and stations and how Tata Power is going big on this. You said 25,000 more are in the pipeline, if I'm not wrong. Uh, Given that you Tata Power is going so big on EV charging and all, is there any thinking of probably creating a separate entity for this for EV charging because it's a service based business? Is there any thoughts behind that, and also because that would further help you unlock your value in terms of the company?
So the EV charging is a part of our renewable business, and within that, the EV business per se is a separate SPV. So we are implementing all that under that SPV, and that SPV is now part of the renewable platform, which in any case is part of Tata Power. So we do have a separate vehicle, and that is being used for presently implementing and enhancing the EV charger infrastructure. And mind you, we do all types of charging infrastructure, whether it is home charging or public charging or fleet charging, bus charging. So we are right across in all types of charging, and we are also the largest in the country with more than 50% market share.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming to Money Control, and we'll meet you at the next quarter, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta.